Hey, Marc, Millan here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. And today's leadership topic is about giving feedback. As a leader, no matter what God calls you to do, giving feedback is one of the most important parts of the job. It's hard. It's one of those things that some of us have to grow into. It's also one of those things that maybe some of us have to learn how to be more sensitive when giving. But if you're going to lead well and you're going to impact people, you're going to have to give feedback. So today I'm going to give us 3 types of feedback, and then I want to talk about 3 challenges when you're giving feedback so that you become more aware of where things get stuck. Feedback, in general, is designed to make us self-aware. It gives us an objective point of view on what we're doing. It doesn't mean that every part of it is true. I've gotten some feedback and sometimes it's only 10% true, but whatever portion you can get from it, it's always given to help you grow. Think of it this way. If someone gives you feedback, it's because they care. They may not care about you, but they might be caring enough about what you're doing or what you're impacting. So look at feedback as an opportunity to learn and grow, and also an opportunity for you to grow in your self-awareness. If you're going to be a great leader, you have to be very self-aware. Okay, so let's jump right into the 3 types of feedback. Number 1, the first type of feedback we want to call is appreciation. Most people, when they're looking for feedback, they want appreciation, okay? And when I talk about appreciation, I'm talking about validating what someone is doing good. Quite honestly, I can tell you, when you validate what someone is doing good enough, they grow exponentially, because there's something about positive momentum in a person's growth and development. When you keep adding oxygen and you keep adding life and fuel to the good things that someone is doing, it inspires them to continue to do great and to grow. So positive momentum is very, very important. So the first one is appreciation. I want to just say you would describe that as validating what's going very good. Hey man, this was great. How you did this was good. I saw you doing these things. You're just validating and giving an appreciation, almost like a voice of encouragement. That's the most sought after form of feedback. If a person is doing a really, really great job and you don't tell them that they're doing a great job, is almost like telling them they're doing a bad job. So think of it that way. So that's number 1, appreciation. Number 2, the second form of feedback I would say is coaching. Coaching is when you come beside a person and you let them know, hey, you did this really, really well. I think there's a better way to do this. Or you start to share some of your own pro tips on what you do. For example, I get to work with leaders and worship leaders a lot. So a lot of times I'm trying to come alongside them and give them some things that I learned over the years that really help me improve or to help me excel in that area. So the second form is that coaching voice. You're trying to give them tools in their toolbox and just helping them to get further along in what God's called them to do. So coaching is also very helpful. Remember the difference between appreciation and coaching. Those are 2 different forms of feedback. The first one, as I said, is most sought after is appreciation. Coaching is really good when you're mentoring someone and you're starting to give them some responsibilities. You want to set up a time where you can give some coaching. I often like to say, hey, may I give you some coaching tips? Hey, can I give you some ideas for how you can potentially do this better? Can I share something that works for me? Those are different ways that you go about coaching someone, and you want to approach it as, hey, this is you. I'm right beside you here, and I want to see you grow. So here's something that maybe I've learned. So that's the second type. The third type of feedback I would say is correctional. It's when you're really given a review or evaluation of something. Employees do this every year, right? You have an employee review. In my leadership structure on my team, I do a yearly review for all my leaders. It gives me a chance to review what we said we were going to accomplish together, and it gives them a chance to really come to terms with the fact that maybe some of those things aren't working out. So it's just a formal way to look back and say what needs to change as we move forward into this next season. So that's the third type of feedback. That one's a little bit more sensitive. Normally, when you're talking about correction or discipline, there's always some form of, if this doesn't happen, then what will we do if it doesn't get done? Those are a little bit tougher. Those are a little bit deeper down the line. But I want to give you those three: appreciation, okay, coaching, and then correction. It's important for you not to mistake which one the person needs. And I want to emphasize it again. The most sought after feedback is appreciation. So the more you can do that, thank you cards, high fives, public recognition, the more you will breathe life and courage into your leaders. Okay, here are the three objections to feedback. Number one, it's a truth issue. When a person hearing feedback, they don't agree with the feedback, they don't believe that it's true. That's the number one objection to feedback when people get it. I'm just making you aware of these three. So as you give feedback, you can try to determine where the breakdown is. I'll talk about each one in summary before we close the video, but that's the first one. The second one is a relational issue. They may believe what's being said, or they may not disagree with what's being said, but they don't have a relational connection with the person saying it. So there's a trust breakdown between the person delivering the feedback. I would say that that's the second objection. And the third objection, which is really hard, I see it a lot in ministry, is what I would call an identity issue. When the person's ego, their self-worth, their value as a person is attached to their function. Normally, that's an identity issue. Obviously, if you are a believer in Christ, then you know that our identity is not in what we do, but our identity is in Him and in His love for us. So He defined who my value and my worth as a person, but then I've been giving this to this ministry as a function. So those are two different things. I could objectively talk about what I have to do without feeling like I'm an unvaluable person, right? My personhood is secure and it's been affirmed by my love for Christ and Christ's love for me. So, three types of feedback, three forms of objections. Now, let me summarize the objections first. The truth issue is a growth problem for the person. So, there's a proverb that says, correct the wise and they will become all the wiser. But if you correct a fool, they will mock you for it. Okay, you have to determine, is this person wise? And usually a wise person or a person who is self-aware, wants to grow, will listen to feedback. They'll say things like, tell me more, or, I'm not sure I see it that way, but help me see what you're seeing. You can see the wisdom in a person. If they reject the feedback, that means that they disagree with it. They're kind of set. So the truth, that's how you can determine what you're dealing with when it comes to truth. The relational part of feedback, very, very important. You may be the leader over a person, but is there another person who can perhaps deliver the feedback so that the relational connection doesn't get in the way of the feedback? That's an important process. You would have to determine that. I often look at it myself and I go, who's the best person to share this with that person so that they receive what we want them to see in terms of what they're doing, but not get hung up on who's actually delivering the message. And then the identity issue, that's a real ministry thing there. The person has to grow in their understanding of the gospel, really, so that they know that they are not their gift, right? They are a child of God. They're a royal priest. They belong to the family of God, and God's given them this to do, but this thing doesn't determine their value as a person. So those are the three objections for people when they receive feedback. Okay, a couple of small things and then we're done. Again, this is part one of 2 videos I want to do. Be specific and detailed when you are giving appreciation feedback. It's so important. If you just generalize feedback, it doesn't help. Hey, good job. You want to say, good job by executing such and such because you did this, this, and that. Specific feedback is the greatest form of fuel and encouragement a person can receive, especially when you're appreciating them. So be as specific and as detailed as possible. That's number one. Number two, always deliver your feedback, whether it's appreciation, coaching, or if necessary, correction. Make sure you do it with the loving tone, and your face has to show that you care for the person. Sometimes you just have to work on that right there so that the person's able to receive it. You could set it up and say, hey, I want to give you some coaching. Or you could say, hey, I want to talk to you about something that I need to correct. Not a big deal, but I want to share with you what's important to me, and maybe I've done a bad job in sharing it with you. So I just want to set up a time for us to talk about it. Just that alone creates that sense of safety for the person to be able to receive it. Again, when you're giving feedback, you're giving it because you care about the person and you care about what they're doing. And so it's so important to figure out which form of feedback am I about to give, and then you analyze it so that you help them to receive it. Because if they can receive it and it's really, really good feedback, then it's a win-win for you, it's a win for them, it's a win for the team. So that's all I have for today. I hope that helps you in your leadership. Again, I'll do part 2 on how we can receive feedback. Until next time, from my heart to yours.